I read human design charts for a living, and here's what I'd say if I were reading Kamala Harris's chart. If you want to follow along with your own chart, this chart is from thefeelgoodexpert.com. Okay, I'm going to say I'm reading this chart blind. So this is the very first time I've looked at this chart. I didn't look at it before starting this video and haven't analyzed anything prior to this very moment. So one of the things that immediately jumps out to me, look down there, the right angle cross of laws, which I'll talk about. Another thing that jumps out, creating a lot of mental pressure for oneself with that defined crown and ajna at the top, those two triangles in pink, but also having the ability to inspire others and shift perspectives through the art of listening and remembering what has happened in the past, being able to relieve confusion in these moments of revelation, and just generally being a pretty good storyteller. Okay, so that right angle cross of laws, which I believe Kim Kardashian also has, and interestingly enough, she got her law degree, right? Anyways, I'd have to double check. I can read her chart too if you want, but cross of laws. So I'm going to read from a passage from one of my favorite books. It's on incarnation crosses, and I'll tag the creator below. But overall cross high. An individual primed with the ability to break free from limiting constraints, analyze the value systems that govern them, and create new codes for how to live life. One who can enrich life with new ways of operating and teaching codes of conduct. People pass through my life when they need to reassess the laws or rules imposed on them. So rule breaking, rule making. This cross deals in making, breaking, testing, and destroying laws. Do with that what you will, but I will point out that this entire channel is part of that incarnation cross, so 3 to 60 down here, that moves from the root to the sacral center. So this gives a pressurized energy for taking things that are chaotic, disorganizing them, and making them organized, and breaking down any roadblocks that stand in the way of being able to fulfill that process of taking chaos and making it organized. And her leading gate in that incarnation cross is gate 50, the cauldron, also known as our gate of values. So again, this is like our tribal rule book, our code of conduct, what we pass down to the next generation. Now, looking at some of the not self themes within this chart, or some of the things that can become distracting for any of these placements, we have an undefined solar plexus, ego center, G center, and then over there, the spleen center. So an undefined solar plexus, difficulty with emotions and always trying to predict and control your emotions or the emotions of others. Undefined ego center, really feeling like we need to prove our value or our worthiness. Undefined G center, not always knowing exactly who we are or where we're going in life, not always having a lot of certainty of purpose. But because she has multiple activations in the G center, so 3 different activations, kind of being pulled in the direction of that purpose via connections and relationships via the other. And then lastly, the undefined spleen center, carrying around some fears, holding on to things that are not good for us for too long, may be prone to some levels of anxiousness, fear of the future. Any of these can be used in a detrimental way, in a distracting way, but they can also be used in a beneficial way. So having both the G center and the ego center undefined, very open-hearted individual, undefined solar plexus, the ability to kind of like let emotions be and move as they will. Undefined spleen center. Many times we find people who are very intuitive with this center, being able to kind of like tap in to the energies of what people are feeling and what people are afraid of, whether you use that, good, bad, or otherwise. Looking down at the digestion, nervous touch digestion, so kind of a busybody, always on the go, having a hard time like sitting still. The last thing that I'll point out that stands out to me immediately, this chart, is having gate 12 in multiple activation. So having it in the design Mars side, and then also having it in the North Node, both in the 3rd line, both in detriment. This is the gate of caution. Standstill is another word for it. This would point to a person who is pretty hard on themselves, right? And really had to learn through a process of self-analysis how to use their voice in beneficial ways instead of using their voice to turn it in on themselves and beat up on themselves. If I were to summarize this chart in just a few words, I would say that this is a person who has a very strong value system for themselves. There probably isn't much you can say to hurt their feelings at this point because they've already said it to themselves in any number of ways. Someone who has a bit of intuition, good storytelling capabilities, ability to kind of look at the mistakes that were made in the past and reframe those, and someone who's really here to use their energy to get things organized.